welcome back. Today's video, I'm going to tackle the rubbery sound deadener on the floor here because we need to see if there's any rust. If you can tell by those dark patches there, I have made a start on getting some of this up. Now I did try and freeze that to try and break it off, but it appears that it's easier to break off while it's dry than when you freeze it. So let's get bashing. Just hammer and chisel at the moment and see how I go. Turns out front piece is a lot easier than the rear piece, so I'm going to do a bit more on the front piece. That's hard and sticky and yucky. And more comfortable out here too on the floor. Honestly, I don't know why I started this job. This is going to be a pain in the ass. It's going to hurt my back, my legs, my hands, my arms. I think I need to sharpen the chisel, but I do have in the garage, the other garage, a big sucker that's for removing house floor tiles. Maybe I'll sharpen that up and use that, and that will triple my area that I'm scraping off. So I think I'll look into that. That's a good idea. All right, update time on scraping off this sound deadening. It is slow, but I'm getting there. I have pretty much done up to that rubber bit there, which I need to take out and continue under there. Finish the tunnel off, have made it into the back. It turns out the large scraper is no good. It turns out the smaller, the better. It breaks it off a lot quicker, but just smaller pieces. So my aim is to fill up that bucket with sound deadener. So I'm going to get back to work. That's probably 2.5 hours work scraping that up there. I did try heat in that place there. Yes, it does work and is probably a bit quicker, but it stinks, and I just would prefer to just chisel it out because, yeah, stinky, hot with the heat, and obviously wasting materials and etc, etc. So we'll just go the old slow and steady wins the race option. All right, back to it. All right, guys, it's now dark outside. Daylight savings is finished, but half the car, the sound deadener is up. It looks a bit dirty, but that's how the final finish is going to look. I still need to get rid of the raised lumpy bits on this front footwell, but from here back is done. And then once I've got that properly cleaned up, let's start on the other side. So far that's about 7 hours work in that half. So probably another half an hour on that, cleaning that up tomorrow. So it'll be 7.5 hours. And hopefully the other side doesn't take as long, because I have done the top of the tunnel all the way along. So it's a little bit over halfway. But slowly making progress. I do have all the drain plugs out and everything. It was interesting to find that they were just slathered over with sound deadener as well. And I also find it quite interesting that this seam along here was only seam sealer, no welds or anything in it. So it's just like, actually, now looking at it's got some spot welds in it, so never mind. Well, we'll keep working. Alrighty everyone, this side is now complete. It is quite smooth. The front footwell is done. I have almost filled that bucket. That's quite heavy, but I've had to get rid of the hoover because it doesn't vacuum anymore. We've got a new shop vac there, which has got a lot of suction, which is really good. So back into here. That's pretty much as far as I'm going to prep it on that side of things. So clean out the junk on that side, and let's get that side done, and then we can work out where we go from here. Now in here you get sections like this here that come off quite easily, and you'll see these darker patches like this a bit here. It's really hard to get off, and you've got to really drive the screwdriver in, tap, tap, tappity-roo. But these bits here will just pop off like it's nothing. Anyway, enough talking. Let's get working. Okay, update time. I have been chipping away, and look at that. It's all up. I haven't touched that seam sealer line at the front because that hasn't done anything to me, so I'll leave that alone. I do have to re-seam seal around the edges on the bottoms of the sills, but that's okay. All that's left to do now is to get this cleaned up like the other side with the wire wheel, and the hard part is done. So we'll get onto that and we'll see how we go after that. There's a bloody dragonfly up there who's too stupid to just fly down and fly out the door. And it's giving me the willies. It's right up there. Can you see him? On top of the door there. Fly out the door, you stupid thing. Well, there we have it. That's a snippet of how you clean up, or how I clean up the rubbery residue left over. And as you can see, it does make a horrible mess in car and in person as well. But I'm going to leave it there because now I have to turn around and do the front footwells, and I don't want to have my back to you guys because that's just rude, isn't it? So I will finish the cleanup on that and get back to you in a jiffy. Okay, that very, very, very dirty job of grinding back all the rubber remains is done. Now it just needs a good clean, and that will be the removal of the OG sound deadener done. And it's very, very messy, let me tell you that. I'm going to get that new vacuum to work, and we'll see you after that. Now, there's obviously better and easier ways to do this. For example, dry ice, and probably a number of other ways to do it, but me, I wanted to do the cheapest way, which was hammer and screwdriver and chisel, because it's cheap. But the other thing was, once I got in the zone, it wasn't that bad. I just, was focused on what I was doing, had the radio going, and yeah, it was a good change from doing body work and that kind of stuff. So that's not too bad. Yes, it took me probably 15 hours all up to get to this stage, and the amount of times I belted my thumb with the hammer will be close to 100, I reckon, and that gets pretty painful after quite a few hits. But yeah, cheapest way to do it for me was that, so that's what I did. It's done now, so it's all good. And that is that. All cleaned up until the parcel shelf, deep into the footwells. So that's that job done. On our collection bucket, we have almost another half a bucket to go with the full bucket that I cleaned out previously. Now, I reckon I've probably taken close to 15 kilos of weight out of this vehicle, but it'll all be going back in when I eventually do the sound deadening again, but there's a few other things to do before we get to that. Now, the main reason for doing this was to see if there's any rust. There has been a few little spots. I had a little piece there, which while I was wire wheeling just scuffed it up, so it was all right. If you come down in here in the passenger footwell, there's that tiny little bit there, which is just surface rust, so that'll clean up nicely. And there's something similar on the driver's side. On that little lumpy bit there, you can see a little bit of rust. So that is all the rust that is in the floor on this. Now, considering how many holes are up the top there, how many holes were down here, and if you remember back to almost a year ago when I replaced that section, how much of that had disappeared. Now, granted, most of that would end up in the boot, but there was a rust hole there. So considering all those holes that were in the top of the car and how very little rust there is in the floor pan of this car, I'm going to call that a win for me, because that's pretty damn good. So that will wrap it up for this video, and I thank you for watching, and please subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Ciao, ciao.